So what people tell you doesn't matter at all. It's what you stack. It's what you assemble. It's what you create. It's the habit of what you put in your head. And today I don't blame you because we got a whole culture that's always blaming somebody else for something in their life. But blame is not a strategy for pride. That's why you listen to these blaming people. They're all angry all the time. Listen, if I wanted to blame, I grew up in an environment, I didn't even share it till my mom passed, and even then I didn't share. I grew up in a pretty rough environment. My mom was a beautiful soul, but when she drank alcohol and she mixed it with prescription drugs, it was a different creature, and it was a violent creature. And I have a younger brother 5 years younger and a younger sister 7 years younger. And my mom would get nuts, and I didn't want them to get hurt. So I was 5'1" in high school. She'd grab me by the hair and smash me against the wall till I bled. Now, I never shared this, and I'm not denigrating her in any way. I only shared it like 4 or 5 years after she died because I was talking to a group of kids in New York City, all without fathers, 80% African-American, about 20% Hispanic out of their group roughly, no white kids. And I'm talking about your biography is not your destiny. And it doesn't matter what you've been through. What you decide now is what's going to control your life. What you decide each day going forward is going to decide your life. And I can look at them seeing me, and I can read their minds. This big, tall, white, rich guy is going to tell me biography doesn't matter. So I said, let me tell you my story. And I told them the whole story, way more than I'm telling you. And every one of them was crying their eyes up when they're done. I said, look where I am right now. Because I wouldn't assemble the story that my past equals my future. The past only equals your future if you live there. If you're using a rear view mirror to guide yourself, you're gonna crash. So what you've been through is horrific. What you've been through is unjust. I'm on your side. But if you hang on to it, you have no future. And you have no one to blame but yourself. And these kids, to their credit, man, they just responded to the challenge because they first cried their eyes out hearing all the stories. My mom would think I was lying, and I wasn't lying. She poured liquid soap down my throat till I threw up. And I wasn't lying. So it's not the physical abuse, it's the fact that this is the person you love most that's trying to hurt you that messes with your head. So I could have been messed up for life, but I didn't. Because something inside me says, I'm responsible for this life. And part of that is because I started reading when I was 13, 14 biographies of people, the greatest people in history, and reading their lives and finding out, guess what? Their lives were far from perfect. Some of them had worse lives than I had. But when you have no reference and all you do is go online, you talk to other people, it's making everybody else toxic, and I'm like this, and they didn't do that, then you get to have this shitty life just like those other people. Why are they online so much? Because they don't have a life. Right? Don't be one of those. Free yourself from the chains of your past. I'm not saying your past doesn't matter, but listen, my mother, I tell people this all the time, and it's the truth. If my mother had been the mother I wanted to be, the mother she should have been, I would not be the man I'm proud to be today. Because I had to become a practical psychologist way before any schooling, figure out when's she gonna go in the mood, how do I change her state, how do I protect her from the kids, it was felt life and death, and it was to some extent. So I developed skills at such a young age. Then when I learned things, I just added to my skills, but I had a core sense of certainty that I could turn anybody around because it started with my mother. And thank God for
harm and flourishing. Yeah. So if my body's telling me something, I ought to listen.
Yeah. You weren't listening.
No.
What were you doing?
Judging. I was judging those signals. I was judging those instincts flaring up, trying to get my attention, say something's wrong here. I don't want things to be wrong. I want them to be good and happy.
Yeah.
And so this is all new work for me. It's taken me half my life to get here. And I'm not great at it yet, but I'm learning. I don't know. Do you listen to your own instincts a lot? Have you learned at this point to really trust what it is you are seeing, responding, or hearing?
I listen, I feel, and I notice, but sometimes I don't take action on it.
Right. So why? Why not?
My pattern has always been, I don't want to upset someone.
Oh, sure.
People pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
Up until now.
Yeah, relational disruption.
It's been I'm doing this to make the other person happy. I'm saying this to make the other person happy. Yes. I'm not doing this because the other person would be mad if I did this. Yep. Which then I'm out of integrity with myself and who I am. So I'm kind of resenting myself, resenting the other person, and resenting that context of the relationship if I don't live my authentic self.
Yeah.
And this is just outside of agreements and boundaries and whatever the relationship.
Some guy just happened to have a video camera, just happened to put the mic on me, just happened to use it for his thesis, And let me say this, he never ever used it for his thesis. He never used it. Friend of mine's like, yo, what you do with that video you did 2 years ago? He was like, well, I still have it. He's like, okay, give it to me. I'm gonna put it up on YouTube.
No way.
And not YouTube for the world, YouTube, because that was a place to house
Your video.
content.
Back
That
in
was
2007.
it. That was the only reason you just
Yeah.
wanted to house content, you know. And I ended up leaving my job at Michigan State. I felt it was time to go do, you know, my own thing. And I promise you, 2 or 3 months after I left, it went viral. It was literally online for years and didn't have any real traction. And then when I left my job and I said, this is it, I can't explain it, but it began to go viral. The one in the classroom, and then a year or so later, Giovanni's also started to go viral. And he told me, Giovanni said, the football guy said he just did it so scouts in the NFL could see it.
Right.
And so somebody stole it from off of the internet and they put it up.
Put the audio over.
Yep, and boom. Yeah,
Wow.
unbelievable.
Is he playing in the league right now?
He didn't make it to the league. So hey, what does that tell you about the league, right? This guy, to me, I thought he could play in the league.
Yeah.
He went to Canada and played for a minute.
Yeah.
And but for whatever reason, you know, he hasn't given up on his dreams of playing in the league. But it just goes to show you that the league is 1% of the greatest talent in the world.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
It's tough to get there. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
I was trying to get there. I played arena ball, but that's, that's a challenge, man.
That is.
So the video, you shot it 2 years before it actually went viral.
Yeah.
And you were still just grinding and doing your thing.
That's it.
You weren't like hoping, like, I hope this thing gets me this viral hit and all these people learn about me. You were just still consistently grinding.
Yeah. And I think that's greatness. I think what people get confused is, you know, they're grinding with a goal. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals, but you should be grinding for grinding's sake. You know, you should grind because that's what you do. You're passionate about what you do, you know, and so you're waking up every day with this concept of, I have 24 hours and they're mine. This 24 hours belongs to me.
Right.
And whatever I do in this 24 hours will determine where I'll be tomorrow and the next day. And I think that's what people need to focus on. Like, get off of this, I want to make 6 figures. I want to drive this car. I want to live in this house. I think what people should be focusing on is, I have 24 hours. Like, Oprah only has 24.
Yeah.
Bill Gates only has 24. Like, Warren Buffett only has 24 hours. And in that 24-hour period, I can either break my life or make my life. And I think, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals. I just think that goals for people is too high on the priority list. And I think what should be on the priority list is going to bed so you can wake up the next day and you can grind it out. And I'm just a dude that believes you reap what you sow. So if you're grinding on Monday, grinding on Tuesday, grinding on Wednesday, if you're grinding 6-7 days a week for a span of 5 or 6 years, something's got to come out of that.
Sure.
But if you're only grinding, you know, on Monday you fired up, Wednesday you back, you're sleeping in, Thursday you got the funk of the world is on. Like, I've heard people say,
Hump day.
Hump day. What is every day is hump day. Like, Wednesday is hump day. Like, Monday hump day. Tuesday is hump day. Like, every day is hump day. And I think if we would spend more time on what's my goal, you know, meaning what do I need to accomplish in this day to live this lifestyle, and you go after it, then I think more people will be successful.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they spend too much time like scoreboard watching. They spend too much time on there. I want this car and this house and live this lifestyle. No, that's the wrong.
You can
focus.
think about the goal and have that in your mind, but then think, okay, I'm going to hustle every day to make it happen, not just focus.
And not just hustle every day. I mean, you should be specific. Like, look, I've got to believe that millionaires do certain things. I got to believe that millionaires have a certain habit. Right. I got to believe that they sleep so many hours. I got to believe that they know their craft. I got to believe they're passionate. That, you know, and so when I take my goal, instead of looking at my goal and asking, how much money can I make? I've got to ask myself, what things do I need to do every single, like from 8 to 9, what should I be doing to be a millionaire? From 9 to 10, what should I be doing? From 10 to 10, 15, like what should I be doing? And that's why I wake up every morning at 3 o'clock, because for me, it's okay, Monday do this, Tuesday do this, Wednesday do that.
Accept that. And that's the mentality you have. Look at yourself, man. Look at yourself. And it was that day, and a couple other days after that, I just got real with myself. And every day I came home, I called the accountability mirror. What am I going to do today to change what I see in this mirror? What am I gonna do today? And a lot of it was I stopped sitting with the cool guys. I actually tucked my shirt in and went to school looking like, hey man, this is how I'm gonna look. If you don't like it, so be it. I had to really wear this layer of skin. I had to develop a really calloused skin on me to take whatever you're gonna call me, you're gonna call me. Whatever I'm gonna be, I wasn't a geek, but whoever I am, you're gonna see me. You're gonna see me for who I am, because I need to change who I'm not. And that accountability mirror just became raw. And when I became fat.
Aren't something that we should be trying to avoid. We evolved the capacity to experience negative emotions for a reason. They provide us with really useful information that we can use to manage ourselves. And one of the best examples of this is there are children who are born into the world each year with the inability to experience physical pain. So it's a genetic
They can't
anomaly.
feel. I punch you in the face, you don't feel it.
You don't feel physical pain.
I stab you with a knife, you don't feel the pain. Real.
It's a genetic polymorphism. It's in the
Break
book.
a bone, you don't feel the
You
pain.
do not feel the pain, right? So it's a mutation. Wow. It's a quirk of genetics, and you can't feel the pain. What happens to these children is they die young.
Because they're putting hand on the fire, they're hitting their
it.
head over and over again.
You got it. So pain is useful in small doses. It's really helpful that if I put my hand on the flame, I pull it away. The pain, the negativity is what makes that such an amazingly adaptive response. So let's go away from extreme examples. If I've got a big performance coming up, a big event, thousands of people, and a couple of weeks before, the whispers. Steven Spielberg talks about these as whispers in his ear.
Never gonna make it.
Right? Oh my God!
You're not good enough.
Thousands of people. You've got to get right. A little bit of anxiety bubbles up. Really useful, because you know what happens? Then I start working on the presentation.
Make sure you're prepared.
And I practice. So negativity, negative emotions in small doses, elegantly adaptive. When the negative emotions become harmful, is when they become more chronic. And that's what chatter is all about. When we experience a negative emotion and then we get stuck in it, we get so immersed that we start looping over and over and over again. That's not good. And that's the pain point that I think so many people suffer from, and where I think the science can be really helpful, because we know there are things that people can do when that happens to manage it.
Really looked through.
Wow.
My biggest fear in life is if there is a final resting place in this world, and there's a final judgment, and you talk to something much bigger than you. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation with someone, with something that says, you're in heaven, this is where you should have been on earth. And are you really in heaven now, or are you in hell? Thinking about how much I left on the table for fear, for not willing to go over the wall, and over the next wall, and over the next wall. So in my mind, I believe that. And God knows all. At least I believe that. I want God to be up there right now as we're speaking, writing stuff down, saying, my God, he exceeded even my expectations. That's how I live my life. I now know that there is no cap on the human mind. There's no cap. We cap it ourselves.
Wow. Is there a cap on the human body?
That's right.
Is there one?
I don't believe so.
But when I'm excited to learn Spanish right now, but I've tried to learn for 20 years.
Yeah.
I took 8 years of classes.
Yeah. Okay.
I've traveled to different Spanish-speaking countries. It's just like, man, how do we learn how to learn something that we want, but it's really challenging?
Let's deconstruct this.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the key. So you mentioned two interesting words with competence and confidence.
Yes.
And in psychology, there is a competence-confidence loop. That the more competent and skilled you get at something, the more confident you get at it.
Of course.
And because you're more confident, you're more likely to do it, and you get better at it, and gives you more confidence, right?
Yes.
And so if I could play
a loop,
golf
right?
like Tiger Woods, I would be playing a lot more, and I would get better. I'd be more confident of it. I remember years ago, I get a call on a Friday evening, and I don't know the guy's voice. I didn't see the number, and I recognize it. So I pick it up, and he was like, "You got to help me. We have this mutual friend, and this my speaker tomorrow in New York City canceled because of an emergency, and I need a speaker, please. And I'm like, well, this is not usually how, you know.
The night before.
Exactly. This is usually like a 6-month in advance process. But the mutual friend was a very close friend. And I was like, you know, look, maybe I could help you, but what's the topic? And he tells me what the topic is. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that topic. Why are you calling me? He was like, well, he wrote a book. I'm like, so? He was like, well, my friend says you're a speed reader. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, can you come a little early and I'll give you his book? And then,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
And I was like, this is gonna completely
Crazy.
this is I have to do this, but this is gonna cost you, but this is gonna
Yeah.
make a great story. And what ended up happening was I show up at 10 o'clock, I read his book, and I give the keynote that afternoon. And humbly, it was the highest rated talk of the event.
Wow.
And I don't take credit for that because I've never, you know, had training in public speaking, but when you understand how people learn, you could, you know, present it. And so I read the book. I remembered everything that I needed to say because I train a lot of TED speakers how to memorize their speech, and I know how to be able to present in a way that's interesting and also sticks with people. But I say that because that's what I mean about I don't have to, you know, just like Will Smith, I don't have to get ready. I stay ready, and that's the power of skill development. And if there's one skill to master, it's our ability to learn. It's called meta learning. This book fundamentally was going to be called meta learning, but people are like, oh no, they're not going to buy it if it has learning in, you know, the title, right? And but meta learning is learning how to learn, and that's a meta skill, and it helps you to learn salsa or Spanish or anything else better. And so let's deconstruct how to do that confidently. We'll start with the limitless model. All right. So this book used to be a book completely on skill development, which was all methodology. It was everything that I teach about how to read 3 times faster, how to learn a language, how to remember names, how to do the things how to get to inbox 0, how to do the things how to be focused, concentrate, critical think, solve problems, all the important things that really is our life, right? But then when I finished it, you know, I talked to friends like you and everybody else, and was like, this is a really good self-help book, but if somebody found it just on the street, they still, even they know what to do, they still wouldn't do it. Like, how come you want to learn Spanish or something else and you put it off, or it takes longer than you should? Because method is only one of the 3 parts. And so this is the limitless model. And I want everybody to think about a subject or some area of your life where you're feeling held back. It could be your relationship. It could be you're not making progress in your career. It could be maybe in your physical performance or wellness. Think about one area where you're stuck in a box, right? Now, a box is like a cage, 3D box, and 3D is 3 dimensions. What keeps you in the box? 3 forces, and these are the 3 M's.
Okay.
And I want everyone to draw a circle, and in that circle, we're gonna draw a Venn diagram. You know what a Venn diagram is? 3 intersecting circles. And the first circle is your mindset, 3 M's. And I always alliterate everything because it helps you to be able to remember it better. First one is your mindset. Now, your mindset are your assumptions and your attitudes about something. Now, let's break that down. For me, functionally, what your mindset is about this subject, and I want people to make this very personal. Think about something, an area you're held back. This is what you believe is possible, is your mindset. It is what you believe you are capable of. It is what you believe you deserve is your part of your mindset, because that's a big thing. That's your thermostat, right? If somebody has a mindset of, like, I could teach someone the method of how to remember names, but their mindset is, I'm stupid.
I don't deserve to remember names, or I'm not capable of it.
Exactly. Or I'm too old, or whatever it is. That's their mindset.
My brain doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Then the method won't take hold.
It won't matter.
Exactly. So this is the formula here.
So how do you learn to believe that you are capable?
So we'll go into this. Yeah. That's exactly what the book does. I take people through a process called unlimiting. It's a word that I coined years ago. Unlimiting is different than unlimited. Unlimiting is like the process of removing limits.
Limiting beliefs.
Exactly. Or behaviors or habits, right? So unlimiting is an active word where you're redrawing the boundaries and borders of your life. Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you believe is possible.
Everybody who was fucking way up here started up here. And you started with no legs. You had to grow fucking legs to even start walking, and then crawling, and then running. And then you start passing people with all this given to them. I had to use all this negative shit that was making me weak and horrible as a person. I had to use this as the power that now fueled me. I had to flip it on its head and say, hold up. This might be exactly what I need. The darkness is exactly what I need. It's how you look at your situation. And I was looking at it all fucked up.
In the book, you tell people to make a list of everything working against them, every real, valid excuse.
Right.
Why do you have them do that?
There's a lot of power in that list. So in that list of who you are, what makes you fucked up, all these other things, it goes back to, once again, accepting. You have to first accept it before you can fix it. A lot of people walk around, oh man, I'm good. I'm good. No, you're not. You have to accept what you're not. You have to, and people don't want to do that. And that's the only way you can fix it. You have to accept it first before you can go on the journey. A lot of folks never even start the journey, man. They never start the journey because they live in this fake life that who they want to be, they act like they are, but they're not because they haven't fixed all this stuff yet. You got to fix this first before we can start our journey in life. So that's why I have them make this list. You fix these problems, now your journey can begin because you no longer care about how people are judging you. When you care more about how someone's judging you, you're going to stay right there. There's no forward momentum. So that's the whole thing about that list.
All right, speaking of making that list, accepting where you're at so that you can address it. In the book, you talk about like what the things are that you're going to be doing. You're going to be putting the list together. How do people go about using, I don't know if it's the accountability mirror, how do they go about addressing each of those issues?
Okay, so let's say the first one is you're not the smartest person in school. I had that issue. So my big thing was how I addressed that problem was I had to sit down. Each thing that is wrong with you has to be a focal point. You can't look at this gigantic list and say, I got to change all this shit. My God, this is crazy. No. You take off the first one. I want to be smarter. For me, that was my thing. I have to become more intelligent. I have such a severe learning disability, man. I can't retain shit. I had to now get that one thing and then strategize in that one problem. How can I do this? I'm not going to learn like you. I'm not going to learn like anybody else. How am I going to figure this out? So I then figured out, okay, where are my strengths here? Where are my weaknesses in learning? All right, man, how am I going to do this? And I figured out a way to do it by just strategizing. So how I learn to this day, if I have a big manual to study, I will have to get a bunch of spiral notebooks from the daggone store. And each page, I have to write each page out, maybe 10 times. So there was a 1,000-page dive manual that I got 18 months before I went to dive school. Most people, I'm not smart, I'm gonna go see if I can pass this test. I realized, hang on a second, I'm not smart. How can I get past this? How can I get through this obstacle? I need to acquire this book 18 months in advance because it could take me 18 months to write down each page over and over again to then put it to memory. So when the question came up, I had written that question so many times down on paper that I can recall, okay, page 71 was where I remember seeing this, and I can recall it that way. And that's how I did it. So you got to strategize on each problem you have in life. Slowly break down that problem. Don't think about all the problems you have, just one at a time. And before you know it, you fix all these problems, but you cannot focus on all of them, just on the one thing at a time.
Disrupted because we love our patterns. And even people that I know, like I've
even when we're
listened
in
to your
pain. Even when we're in pain, we love
well,
the pain.
pain's familiar for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like you may be listening to Lewis and I talking, and you grew up in a super chaotic household. Maybe your parents argued all the time. Maybe your dad or mom were in and out. Maybe there was a lot of fighting. Maybe there was actual abuse. I don't know what was going on, but it was chaotic as hell. And so as an adult, you have vowed to yourself, you are not going to repeat that pattern. But what ends up happening is because as a little kid, you absorbed the pattern of chaos in your nervous system, unless you go about the intentional work of breaking the pattern of chaos, you will create it in your own life because it's what's familiar. You won't understand. Why do I keep dating these assholes? Why do I go to these bosses that treat me like crap? Because you don't know what it feels like to be in a relationship with either a boss or a romantic partner or a roommate that is consistent, because for the first 18 years of your life, you lived in a state called, when's the next shoe going to drop?
Right.
And so wherever it is in your life that something is broken, there is a pattern that you don't see yet that is making you continue to stay in a broken situation. And so one of the things that you just asked, which is why is a perspective change or losing a job or something like that that's so disruptive? Because those sorts of things, COVID-19 breaks every pattern.
Yes.
Black
Breaks your
Lives Matter.
routines. Yeah.
Yes. Black Lives Matter breaks patterns of thinking that you weren't even aware that you had about privilege or being anti-racist or what your Black colleagues and friends and relatives deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so having a breakdown is one of the biggest things on the planet, because what you get is you get a break from your own bullshit, and you can look objectively at where you are, and for the first time look ahead and say, well, what do I want to go create? And 9 times out of 10, if you're discouraged right now, if you've got financial devastation, if you're facing something that is making this moment in time as hard for you as life was for Lewis and I in 2008 during the last recession, I beg you, ask yourself honestly if what you had is actually what you wanted. The thing that you just lost, that job that you bitched about all the time.
A relationship that was bad to you. Yeah.
Yes, or the friends you can't hang out with because it's convenient and you're in quarantine. Like, actually ask yourself if this is what you wanted, or were you just used to it? Being used to something, Lewis, I think is the biggest reason why people don't change.
A lot of us, mediocrity is everywhere right now. And we're all trying to find an easy way out. And we're judging ourselves. Let's say there's 10 people in this room and we're all mediocre. But I'm the best of the mediocre people. I now think I'm great. I'm great. We surround ourselves around people that make us feel great. They tell us what we want to hear. The second we put ourselves amongst the uncommon people, we don't like that feeling. That challenging feeling of that person who's waking up at 3:30 in the morning and say, hey, put your shit on, we're going for a run. We don't like that challenge. We like that person who says, hey, you know what, man, I don't feel good today, man. And they say, oh, it's okay, brother. We'll take a day off, man. We'll get a pizza and shit, watch the game. We like that. We love that feeling. Why? Because you understand, man, we're good, bro. We don't want that motherfuckers like this. Hey, man, no, bro. Get your fucking shit on, man. Stop being a punk. We don't want that in our lives. We don't want that person who's constantly challenging our weaknesses. We want that person who's constantly, making us feel nice and good and secure in ours. That's the mediocrity of life. We want to be the best amongst the average people. People wonder, how do you stay hungry all the time? Because after I accomplish something, I don't sit back like a lot of guys who graduate buds, graduate this, graduate that. They get comfortable. They wonder why I'm getting weak, man. I don't know, I lost my edge. What's going on? Because once you hit the top of the fucking mountain, guess what happened? I'm good. I'm good. So you wonder why you're falling down now. Because once you reach the top of the mountain, you got to build a fucking another one. That's mediocrity. There's a lot of people in mediocrity who have a nice resume, but they're one-timers, man. They hit a one-time deal. They busted it open, got a lot of money, but they're good. You're mediocre now, man. What are you fucking doing today, tomorrow, the next fucking day? That's why I don't listen to theorists. I don't listen to all that bullshit. I listen to a motherfucker who's like this, man. What's wrong, man? I'm fucking tired, dude. Why are you tired? Because tomorrow, I gotta do the fucking shit again, man. Whatever the shit is that made me fucking nauseous and sick to my stomach, it made me hurt. There's no ending. And that's the person I listen to. That's the person who's gained knowledge. You gain knowledge through suffering. And on the other end of suffering is a world that very few have ever seen. It's a beautiful world, because that's where you find yourself. You don't find yourself in over here. You find yourself on the other end. Like that 100-mile race I was on, I ran it for 24 hours. I found myself on the other end of that fucking race. That 19 hours, I found, wow, there's a whole nother fucking world out here that I've never even saw. But the world's in your mind. And that's what all that mediocrity is about. Mediocrity is contagious.
Talk to me about not getting sick.
Like, I see where I'm at today, but I know where I come from. And it's kind of hard to almost separate that. I'm almost, not in a way I'm kissing my own ass, but I'm amazed at what a human being can actually do. So when I start talking to myself in the third person, it's strictly because I know that I literally made this human being out of just like a whole bunch of scraps. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't, I wasn't a mechanic. I wasn't a carpenter. So I didn't know how to do any of this shit. Mm-hmm. I wasn't trained in how to build a human being from nothing. Like my mom didn't train me. My dad didn't train me. Life didn't train me. Well, life did train me.
Yeah.
Life did train me, correction. And I started putting this scrap metal together. I'm like, I wonder what the fuck's gonna happen. The first year I tried to do it was all fucked up. And after a while, I started learning more and more and more through pain and suffering. I started learning so much about stuff. Before I knew it, man, I built this beautiful car. And I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? And I knew how, and I know how to do it because I have all the tools. Through all the failure I went through trying to build this person who's Goggins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was something I came across loud and clear, which is it's not like you develop this toolbox and then everything worked out. Like,
No.
It's like there's so many ups and downs and highs and lows, and you're constantly getting knocked down again.
A lot of Home Depot shopping for that toolbox, brother.
Yeah, and I think the real gift that's built into this whole thing is how you reframe vulnerability. Like, we tend to think of vulnerability as a weakness or somebody who's soft,
right.
and you embody it in a completely different structure to show people that it is strength. Like, if you want to be hard and you want to be strong, vulnerability and open-mindedness are the keys to that kingdom.
And you said it perfectly there. The one thing that made me who I am today is being vulnerable. It's breaking myself down to the absolute rock bottom and being able to tell people who I am. And that's how I fixed it. Literally, being able to look somebody in the eye and say, you know what, man, I have a whole bunch of character problems, character flaws. I've lied about this. I've cheated here. I'm insecure here. This isn't the real me. I lied to you about that. I wanted your acceptance in life. All those things happen. But the thing about it is that we get judged so quickly by who we are. We don't know. We don't go to where it happened. Life created this person, me. Life created me to be this fucked up person that I was back in the day. And I had to realize, man, that's okay, man. It's not my fault. Now I gotta go back and fix this shit, though. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this isn't your fault, why you do some things you do, why you feel the way you feel. But no one's coming back to save your ass. You have to go back to where the shit started, wherever that place is for everybody, and have the courage to go back there and start fixing what broke you. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was like, hey, I'm fucked up. I'm gonna go back and fix this, though.
You got to be honest with yourself
100%.
About where you're at.
100%.
People don't like that.
Oh, it's ugly.
Yeah.
And what's funny about it is that as you're trying to fix yourself and dig yourself out of this deep hole that life, society, and you helped also, those people who you saw down there in that hole who were there with you, who were your friends and people who you counted on, because you meet the people in the same situation that you're in life. Those people become your friends. And the second you try to get out of that situation and become better, those people are in that grave, in that dungeon, just yanking at your heels, man, saying, get the fuck back. Oh, no, come on back here, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna make me feel like shit by you getting out of this hole.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
So I get that all the time now. People would constantly remind me of who I used to be back in the day. And they always come out of the woodworks, man. Versus my
That's still happening?
You know what? When you come from a small, small town, and you come from a place that a lot of people don't want to come out of it and get out of it, and all you want to do is become somebody, small town mentality is a real mentality. You've got to be able to get out and let your mind see open-mindedness. Because a small town, what it does to you is it closes your mind, completely closes your mind. Not everybody. This isn't everybody. A lot of people. You have to be able to go out there and create open-mindedness. You need space. You need space to see the world. Like a lot of racism, a lot of ignorance in the world, it comes from people not being out and seeing other things, seeing other people, seeing all kind of shit. That's why we judge so harshly, because our minds are so closed to the reality of life, period.